CBS Sports golf analyst Doug Bell and Rick Gehman in with their views of what day two might possess. Guys, we know patience is a virtue, especially at a tournament like this, but urgency is your ally. Let's talk about expectations for Scottie Scheffler in round two, Rick. How urgent must he be to get his foot on that accelerator early?
Well, I would say expectations are high, but urgency is not necessarily required immediately. There's a lot of golf to be played. As mentioned, the weekend will prove to be the more difficult pin locations. The pressure will amp up. Those are things that are all good news for Scottie Scheffler, but he's going to have to go out and beat the field average, and he's probably going to have to beat it by 2 or 3 shots to keep himself in contention. The problem for Scottie is he is now only graded on wins. I don't care if he finishes third. I don't care if he finishes second. I care if Scottie Scheffler wins this golf tournament. So that is the burden of being the #1 player in the world, is that you have these high expectations. And considering how he struggled in some areas of this game, how he wasn't very sharp in the opening round, I expect him to get those things worked out pretty quickly, and we're going to see the #1 player in the world in his true form over the course of the next few days.
Yeah, Rick, I agree. And listen, he is #1 in the world, right? And there is pressure when you come into a U.S. Open and all the talk is about the best player on the planet. And remember, the only #1 ranked player to ever win the U.S. Open was Tiger, and he did it 3 times. So Scottie tried to beat history. Obviously, 11 of the last 12 U.S. Open winners have broken 70 in the opening rounds. So that isn't tending or lending to Scottie's success either. But all these factors really don't mean anything with a player of his caliber who leads the PGA Tour in scoring average, a tick over 68. He has the best second-round scoring average on the PGA Tour leading into the weekend. I think he's going to bounce back. And again, he's not battling the guys on top of the leaderboard. He's battling the scorecard. He just knows he has to get back somewhere closer to level par heading into the weekend. 1 under on Friday, 2 under would be fantastic, but Scottie Scheffler knows better than anyone else. It's just a matter of playing a little more consistent golf on Friday and getting closer to level par on this very tough layout. And again, if you look at the names above him, guys, aside from a couple of live players, it's not exactly murderer's row.
Yeah, this comes with no disrespect to J.J. Spaun, but I think you give anyone the opportunity to sign for 4 under through 72 holes, and they might take that offer here after day 1. Oakmont by the numbers, as you allude to, Rick, a little bit there. It's as advertised through 18 holes, more than 4.5 strokes over par on Thursday. Only 10 players in red numbers, 16 rounds in the 80s, and only 4 of those 16 were posted by amateurs. If we're talking about precipitation on Saturday, let's talk setup on Friday. Doug, could you see the USGA maybe pulling a curveball here and making Friday the day of carnage? How do you expect the test to develop?
I don't know. I saw a lot of carnage in the opening round with a scoring average close to 75. And it was interesting, too. Both nines are about equal in scoring average. So, you know, you can say, hey, the front nine's easier than the back or vice versa. But in reality, it's just 18 brutal holes. And the USGA, I thought, was very fair in this opening round. If you look at the hole locations, again, they're on plateaus and they're in valleys, and you're not going to have any flat surfaces whatsoever at Oakmont. So I think Friday will continue to be really a tough setup. But again, I like the guys. I like it when you play in the afternoon and you come right back out in the morning. The dew will be on the ground. It just feels like it's a little more gettable. The wind is down. There was no wind at all in the morning on Thursday. The same scenario on Friday. So I think Scottie Scheffler and some of the other guys, DeChambeau and Rory, after you play a bad round, you're anxious to get back out, especially trying to post something to set yourself up for the weekend.
I like the idea, Joe. Let's just crush these guys on Friday and see what happens. You know, you can't control what Mother Nature has to say about this championship. You might not have an opportunity to do this again if you don't do it on Friday. I think the interesting part, though, is the thick rough is obviously a huge part of the trouble around Oakmont. And even if it does rain, or when it does rain, that's going to get more difficult, because now you're getting thick, wet rough, which is going to not only create a more dense material that you have to go through, but it's also going to put water between your club face and the golf ball, which is going to make it more difficult to judge how far it's going to go and what the spin is. So there are some more defense systems in place, even in wet conditions, because of that thick rough. So I'm interested to see what they do with those pin locations and how the greens will end up playing over the course of the next 3 days. But that rough is still lurking out there quite thick.
I mean, just take the unplayable, walk it to the 150 mark. Let's have a good time here. It's Oakmont, right? We got so much out in front of us here, fellas, all the good and the bad, and a tournament that looks like it could be shaping up around even par. We remember back in 2016, 4 under was our winning number by Dustin Johnson. A lot of rain earlier in the week that did soften that golf course through 4 days. So we'll see where Oakmont, the USGA, wants this thing to land, but it is going to be a tough test for the remainder. We got to make a move one way or the other on Friday. Not moving day just yet, but let's bust a move here. Doug Bell, who's a player you expect to make a move up that leaderboard on Friday?
Well, I think it's easy money. Scottie Scheffler. Again, opening round, hits 50% of his fairways, 7 out of 14. The field average was 55%, so he was actually below the field average in hitting fairways. Hit only 11 of 18 greens. I mean, this was kind of a head-scratching day for world number 1. Ranked 79th out of 156 in putting. I mean, come on now. You know Scottie Scheffler is a motivated guy come Friday, and there's no doubt in my mind he will make a move in the second round. And it doesn't have to be a major move. Just get a little closer to level par, and Scottie Scheffler will be right where he wants to be.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I'll go with somebody also at 3 over par, and Keegan Bradley, who enters this week with back-to-back top 10s. He's had himself an unbelievable 2025, and he had a really bizarre opening round at Oakmont. He actually had a very good proximity to the hole on the greens that he hit. It was 16th. It was basically half the distance to the pin that Rory McIlroy was, but he just didn't hit enough greens. He just never gave himself enough opportunities. I think that is probably the one aspect of the game that Keegan can improve on immediately, because he is such a great ball striker. And then he hemorrhaged strokes on the putting surface, which is not always a spot where Keegan is going to be able to improve. He's been kind of a streaky putter in his career, but I think there are other areas where he can get back to his strengths, play well, and post a better score than he did in the opening round.
I mean, a U.S. Open title in a year that you're the captain of the Ryder Cup team that you might have to play on. Just get the eagle tattooed right there, the stars and stripes somewhere. Captain Keegs, we'll see if he can make a move in day 2 at Oakmont. Guys, I do want to pick here because, one, there are live entry points that offer opportunity here, Rick, but also I want to see how married to those 3 overs you really are. Give me your pick to win here through 18 holes.
I'm afraid to say it, and this would also have some Bethpage implications as well, but I'm all in on Jordan Spieth now. Wow. Okay, I've seen it, right? This goes back about 2 years. He drove it so much better last year. He's longer, he's more straight off the tee. He really struggled with the wrist injury on some of the other shots that he had to make contact with the ground. Well, post wrist surgery, all that has come back and then some. So now we've kept all the good driving stuff. We've added all the great second shot stuff, the ability to run the hot putter, and he did it in the opening round to beat the field average by nearly 5 strokes. I'm buying all the Jordan Spieth stock. I think it would be absolute madness, and it would be so fun if he is in the mix. But there is a really good statistical baseline for Jordan Spieth to be in contention this weekend.
Hey guys, I really enjoyed watching Jon Rahm today in the opening round. Now, we saw a little bit of Jon Rahm, the old Jon Rahm at the PGA Championship. 8 holes to go. He was right there with Scottie Scheffler and imploded those final holes at Quail Hollow. But today, this was the old Jon Rahm, and he drove it beautifully, guys. Hit 11 of 14 fairways, 14 of 18 greens. He was #1 strokes gained off the tee, number 7th in driving distance. I mean, this was the guy who won at Torrey Pines. This is the guy who won at the Masters. He's been relishing the week. He had fun at his press conference when asked. He said, John, you've never finished outside the top 10 in any live event. And he kind of laughed. He said, come on, guys. We have smaller fields, this and that. So he's in good spirits. He recalled Seve losing to Tom Watson in the 82 U.S. Open when Watson came out in the final round wearing blue on top of white, which was Seve's favorite colors. I mean, Jon Rahm, He's been the star of the show up to this point, and after what I saw in the opening round, if the putter gets just a little warmer, I think Jon Rahm could be the big story this week at Oakmont. Now, he's my pick right now after the opening round.
Yeah, it did feel like we turned a corner there at Quail Hollow. Obviously, forced his hand down the stretch, made those final numbers look a little bit different than the quality of golf that he played. We are only around turn number 1 here at the U.S. Open, fellas. Talk plenty more throughout the week.